The crimson dust of Kepler 442c swirled around Elena's boots as she clutched her daughter closer to her chest. Maya's breathing had grown shallow over the past 3 days. Each rattling inhale a countdown Elena refused to acknowledge. The child's fever burned through the thin thermal blanket, and Elena could feel her own strength ebbing with each step toward the mining settlement's cantina. The neon signs flickered against the perpetual twilight of the tidally locked planet. Lucky Strike Tavern buzzed intermittently, casting sickly green shadows across Elena's gaunt face. She had been a captain once, commanding a transport vessel that carried families to new worlds. Now she was just another refugee, another casualty of the corporate wars that had torn human space apart. Maya stirred in her arms, her small voice barely a whisper. "Mama, I'm cold." Elena tightened her grip, feeling the sharp edges of her daughter's ribs through the fabric. The nutrient bars had run out yesterday. The medicine 3 days ago. Elena had sold everything, her captain's insignia, her phase pistol, even her wedding ring from a marriage that had ended in plasma fire above Proxima Centauri. The cantina doors hissed open, releasing a wave of recycled air thick with alcohol and desperation. Elena's eyes adjusted to the dim interior, scanning the faces of miners, smugglers, and traders who populated this forgotten corner of human space. Most looked through her as if she were already a ghost. But one man's gaze lingered. He sat alone at a corner booth, his hands wrapped around a steaming cup. Unlike the others, his clothes were clean, his beard neatly trimmed. There was something about his posture, confident but not threatening, observant but not predatory. Elena noticed the small ship medallion on his jacket collar. A trader, maybe. Someone with resources. Maya coughed, a wet sound that made Elena's heart clench. Time was running out. Elena approached his table with measured steps. Maya held protectively against her shoulder. "Excuse me." The man looked up, revealing dark eyes that seemed older than his face suggested. "Yes, I need medicine for my daughter. And food." Elena's voice came out stronger than she felt. "I can pay." He gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Please, sit." Elena remained standing. "I don't have credits, but I have something else to offer." The man's expression didn't change, but Elena caught the slight tightening around his eyes. What would that be? Elena forced herself to meet his gaze directly. "One night. With me. In exchange for medical supplies and enough food to get us off-world." Maya shifted weakly in her arms, her small fingers clutching at Elena's jacket. The man's eyes moved to the child, taking in her pale skin and labored breathing. When he looked back at Elena, something had changed in his expression. "What's your daughter's condition?" "Bacterial infection. Probably picked up from the recycled water systems on the refugee transport. She needs broad-spectrum antibiotics, for fluids, and proper nutrition." Elena's medical training from her military days allowed her to diagnose even without proper equipment. Without treatment, she has maybe 2 days. The man nodded slowly. "My name is Marcus Chun. I'm a trader, but I also have medical training." He paused, studying Elena's face. "What's your name?" "Elena Vasquez." "This is Maya." "Former military?" Elena stiffened. "How did you?" "The way you hold yourself. The way you assessed the room when you entered. The precision in your medical terminology." Marcus smiled slightly. "I was military too. Before." Maya's breathing grew more labored, and Elena felt panic rising in her chest. "Will you help us or not?" Marcus stood, his decision already made. "Yes, but not for what you're offering." Elena's grip on Maya tightened. "I don't understand." "I'll help because it's the right thing to do." Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a small medical scanner. "May I?" Elena hesitated, then nodded. Marcus gently placed the device against Maya's forehead, his movements careful and practiced. The scanner beeped softly, displaying readings that made his jaw tighten. "She's in septic shock. We need to move now." Marcus's voice carried the authority of someone used to making life or death decisions. "My ship has a full medical bay. We can have her stabilized within the hour." Elena felt tears she had been holding back for days finally spill over. "Why would you help us? You don't even know us." Marcus looked at Maya's pale face, then back at Elena. "Because once upon a time, Someone helped me when I had nothing left to lose. And because that little girl deserves a chance to see tomorrow." He moved toward the exit, then paused. "Coming." Elena followed, hope and fear warring in her chest. Outside, the perpetual dusk of Kepler 442c seemed less oppressive. Marcus led them toward the docking bay, where a sleek courier ship waited like a promise of salvation. As they walked, Maya stirred again. "Mama, who is the nice man?" Elena looked at Marcus, who had turned to smile at the child. "I think he might be our guardian angel, sweetheart." Marcus chuckled softly. "Just someone who believes in second chances." The ship's medical bay was better equipped than many hospitals Elena had seen. As Marcus began preparing the four-line with practiced efficiency, Elena finally allowed herself to believe that her daughter might survive after all. The medical bay hummed with quiet efficiency as Marcus worked over Maya's small form. Elena watched from a chair beside the treatment bed, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. The four-drip fed life-giving fluids into her daughter's dehydrated body, while broad-spectrum antibiotics began their fight against the infection ravaging her system. "Her vitals are stabilizing," Marcus said, adjusting the readouts on the medical monitor. "The fever should break within 6 hours. Full recovery will take about a week with proper nutrition and rest." Elena released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." Marcus pulled up a chair beside her. "Tell me what happened. How did a former military officer end up stranded on a mining planet with a sick child?" Elena was quiet for a long moment, watching Maya's chest rise and fall with each breath. The color was already returning to her daughter's cheeks. "I was a transport captain. Civilian evacuation runs during the corporate wars. My ship, the Esperanza, carried families fleeing the fighting in the outer colonies." She paused, memories flooding back. 3 months ago, we were ambushed by Meridian Corporation raiders near the Jupiter Gate. They wanted the ship, not the passengers. I managed to get most of the families to the escape pods before. Elena's voice caught. "Before they boarded us." Marcus remained silent, letting her find her words. "Maya and I made it to a pod with 12 other people. We drifted for 2 weeks before a salvage crew picked us up. They dropped us here because it was the only human settlement in range." Elena laughed bitterly. "Turns out salvagers don't provide charity flights." "What about Maya's father?" Elena's expression hardened. "Dead. Killed defending a colony on Kepler 186F 2 years ago. He was a good man, a better person than I am." "You're a mother fighting for her child's life," Marcus said quietly. "That makes you pretty extraordinary in my book." Maya stirred on the treatment bed, her eyes fluttering open. "Mama!" Elena was beside her instantly, smoothing her daughter's dark hair. "I'm here, baby. How do you feel?" "Less cold." Maya's voice was stronger already. "Where are we?" "On a nice man's ship. He's helping us get better." Maya turned her head to look at Marcus, her eyes curious rather than afraid. "Are you a doctor?" Marcus smiled. "Sometimes. I'm also a pilot, a trader, and occasionally a chef." "What would you like to be when you grow up?" "A starship captain, like Mama used to be." Maya's answer came without hesitation. Elena felt a pang of loss for the future she had once imagined for her daughter. "Maybe you'll be something even better, sweetheart." "Being a captain is the best thing," Maya insisted with the certainty of childhood. "Mama says captains help people find new homes among the stars." Marcus exchanged a meaningful look with Elena. "That sounds like important work." As Maya drifted back to sleep, Marcus led Elena to the ship's small galley. The space was efficiently designed, with a food synthesizer, water recycler, and compact dining area. He programmed the synthesizer for a simple meal: protein bars, vitamin-enriched fruit, and hot tea. "Eat," he said, placing the tray before Elena. "You're no good to her if you collapse from exhaustion." Elena realized she couldn't remember her last real meal. The protein bar tasted like the finest delicacy after days of hunger. "Your ship is well-equipped for a trader vessel. I specialize in high-value, low-volume cargo. Medical supplies, rare elements, information. It requires a certain level of self-sufficiency." Marcus poured himself tea from the dispenser. What are your plans once Maya recovers? The question Elena had been dreading. I don't know. We have no ship, no credits, no destination. I suppose we'll try to find passage deeper into human space, away from the war zones. The corporate wars are spreading. There aren't many safe places left. Elena set down her cup, meeting his eyes. Then what do you suggest? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, as if weighing something important. I have a proposition. But first, I need to tell you something about myself. Elena waited, sensing this was significant. I wasn't entirely truthful earlier. I'm not just a traitor. Marcus stood and moved to a sealed cabinet Elena hadn't noticed before. He entered a complex code, and the panel slid open to reveal official documents, credentials, and what appeared to be military commendations. I work for the Independent Colonial Alliance. We're trying to establish safe havens for refugees from the corporate wars. Elena leaned forward, intrigued despite herself. I've heard rumors about the ICA. Most people think it's a myth. We prefer it that way. It makes our work easier. Marcus returned with a data pad, which he placed on the table between them. We're building a colony on Kepler 438b. It's far enough from the main trade routes to avoid corporate attention, but close enough to help refugees fleeing the war zones. Elena scrolled through the information on the pad. Images of a green world, architectural plans for settlements, population projections. This is ambitious. How many people? Currently about 3,000. We're aiming for 10,000 within 2 years. We need experienced personnel, pilots, engineers, medical staff, military advisors. Marcus paused meaningfully. Ship captains. Elena's heart began to race. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a home. For both of you. Maya could grow up on a world where children aren't afraid to look at the sky because corporate raiders might come from it. Elena stared at the images of Kepler 438b. Rolling hills, clear rivers, small settlements connected by tree-lined paths. It looked like the paradise colonies from the old Earth advertisements. What's the catch? Marcus smiled. Smart question. The catch is that it's dangerous work. The corporations don't like losing their labor pool to independent colonies. We've already faced 2 raids. We're expecting more. You're asking me to fight again. I'm asking you to help protect something worth fighting for. A place where Maya can be safe. Elena looked through the galley port toward the medical bay, where her daughter slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The choice should have been difficult, but it wasn't. When do we leave? Marcus's ship, the Nomad, slipped through hyperspace toward Kepler 438b with a smoothness Elena hadn't experienced since her days commanding the Esperanza. She stood on the bridge beside Marcus, watching the swirling patterns of hyperspace outside the viewport while Maya played with a holographic puzzle in the corner. Jump completion in 30 minutes, Marcus announced, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. Elena, could you take the co-pilot seat? I'd like your opinion on our approach vector. Elena settled into the familiar embrace of a pilot's chair, muscle memory taking over as she scanned the readouts. The sensation of being useful again, of having skills that mattered, was intoxicating. You're planning a steep descent through the polar magnetic field? It masks our signature from long-range sensors. Corporate scout ships patrol the outer system regularly. Elena studied the navigation display, calculating approach angles and orbital mechanics in her head. If you adjust the entry point by 2 degrees and extend the burn by 30 seconds, you'll reduce our heat signature by another 15%. Marcus made the adjustments, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Good eye. How long since you've piloted? 3 months. But you never really forget. Elena felt a stirring of the old confidence, the certainty that had made her an effective captain. What's the colony's current population? 3,412 as of last week. We're expecting another transport from the Vega colonies next month. Marcus paused, his expression growing serious. Elena, there's something you should know about the colony. About why I was really on Kepler 442c. Elena turned to face him fully. I'm listening. The ICA has been tracking refugee movements, trying to identify skilled personnel who might be assets to our colonies. Your name came up in the transport records from the Esperanza incident. Elena felt a chill. You were looking for me specifically? Not specifically. But when I learned that Captain Elena Vasquez was stranded on a mining world with a sick child, I knew I had to try to help. Marcus met her eyes directly. The offer is genuine, Elena. We need people like you. But I want you to know that this wasn't entirely coincidence. Before Elena could respond, Maya's voice cut through the tension. Mama, look, the pretty lights are changing. Through the viewport, the swirling patterns of hyperspace were beginning to fade, replaced by the stark beauty of normal space. Stars wheeled slowly as the Nomad completed its transition, and directly ahead, a blue-green world hung like a jewel against the cosmic darkness. Kepler, 438b, Marcus said softly. Home. Elena caught her breath. The planet was beautiful, swirling white clouds over green continents and deep blue oceans. Unlike the industrial world she had visited during the war, this world looked pristine, untouched by corporate exploitation. It's perfect, Maya breathed, pressing her face against the viewport. Marcus began the approach sequence, his hands moving with practiced efficiency across the controls. Ground control. This is Nomad requesting clearance for landing Bay 7. Nomad, this is New Eden Control. You're cleared for approach. Welcome home, Marcus. How did your mission go? Elena noticed the warmth in the controller's voice, the familiarity. This wasn't just a job for these people. It was family. Very successful. Control. I'm bringing home 2 new colonists. Captain Elena Vasquez and her daughter Maya. Outstanding. Medical and orientation teams are standing by. See you on the ground. As they descended through the atmosphere, Elena could see the colony taking shape below them. The main settlement was built in a valley beside a wide river, with smaller outposts scattered across the surrounding hills. Solar collectors gleamed on rooftops, and she could see the geometric patterns of agricultural plots extending toward the horizon. How do you power everything? Elena asked, studying the layout. Solar, wind, and geothermal. The planet has excellent renewable resources. We're completely energy independent. Marcus pointed to a cluster of buildings near the spaceport. That's the medical center, the fabrication plant, and the communications hub. The residential areas are built into the hillsides for protection. Protection from what? The weather can be severe during storm season, and corporate raids tend to target visible infrastructure. Marcus's voice hardened slightly. We've learned to build defensively. The Nomads settled onto the landing pad with barely a tremor. Through the viewport, Elena could see people approaching the ship, men and women in practical work clothes, their faces eager and welcoming. A small group of children waited at a respectful distance, curious about the newcomers. Are you ready? Marcus asked, standing and extending his hand to Maya. Maya took his hand without hesitation, then reached for Elena's. Will the people here like us, Mama? Elena squeezed her daughter's small fingers. I think they will, sweetheart. The cargo bay doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing the colony's welcoming committee. A woman with silver hair and kind eyes stepped forward, her smile genuine and warm. Captain Vasquez, I'm Dr. Sarah Chun, the colony administrator. And you must be Maya. She knelt to Maya's level. We're so glad you're here. Are you Marcus's mama? Maya asked with characteristic directness. Dr. Chun laughed. I'm his aunt. He's told me wonderful things about both of you. Elena felt a flush of embarrassment. I hope he didn't oversell us. A transport captain with evacuation experience and medical training? You're exactly what we need. Dr. Chin stood, her expression growing more serious. Marcus, we need to brief Captain Vasquez on the situation. We received intelligence about increased corporate activity in the outer system. Marcus nodded grimly. How much time do we have? Unknown. Could be days, could be weeks. But we need to be ready. Elena felt the familiar weight of command settling on her shoulders. What kind of corporate activity? Patrol ships, long-range reconnaissance, communications intercepts, Dr. Chen explained. It looks like Meridian Corporation is planning something significant. The same corporation that had destroyed Elena's ship and killed her passengers. Elena's jaw tightened. What do you need from me? Help us prepare our defenses. Train our pilots. Most of our people are colonists and refugees. They have heart, but they lack military experience. Elena looked around at the faces surrounding them, hopeful, determined, but also afraid. These people had found something precious here, something worth defending. Maya tugged on her hand, pointing excitedly at a butterfly that had landed on a nearby flower. When do we start? Elena asked. Dr. Chen smiled. Tomorrow. Tonight, you rest and get settled. Marcus will show you to your quarters. She paused, studying Elena's face. Captain, I want you to know that everyone here is fighting for the same thing. A place where our children can grow up free. Whatever you've lost, whatever brought you here, you're not alone anymore. Elena felt tears prick her eyes for the second time in as many days. Thank you. As the group began to disperse, Marcus touched Elena's arm gently. Come on, let me show you your new home. Elena's quarters were built into the hillside overlooking the main settlement, with large windows that captured the morning light and offered sweeping views of the valley below. Maya had fallen asleep immediately in her new bed, exhausted by the excitement of arrival and still recovering from her illness. Elena stood at the window, watching the sun rise over New Eden, when Marcus knocked softly at the door. I brought coffee, he said, holding up 2 steaming cups. Real coffee, not the synthetic stuff. Elena accepted the cup gratefully, inhaling the rich aroma. Where did you get real coffee? One of the advantages of being a trader. I know where to find the good stuff. Marcus joined her at the window. What do you think? It's beautiful. Almost too good to be true. Elena sipped her coffee, savoring the taste. Tell me about the defenses. What are we really facing here? Marcus's expression grew serious. The colony has basic defensive systems, energy shields, automated weapons platforms, early warning sensors. But our real strength is supposed to be secrecy. If the corporations find us, they'll come in force, Elena finished. How many ships do we have? 12 combat-capable vessels, mostly converted civilian craft. About 30 pilots with varying degrees of training. Marcus set his cup on the windowsill. Elena, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. Go ahead. Are you ready to fight again? I know what you've been through, the losses you've suffered. No one would blame you if you just wanted to find somewhere safe for Maya and disappear. Elena was quiet for a long moment, thinking about her daughter sleeping peacefully in the next room, about the families she had failed to save from the Esperanza, about the people here who had welcomed them with such kindness. 3 months ago, I would have said no. I was done with fighting, done with losing people I cared about. Elena turned to face Marcus. But these people, they're not just running from the corporations. They're building something better. That's worth fighting for. Relief flickered across Marcus's features. Good, because we're going to need every advantage we can get. A soft chime from Marcus's comm unit interrupted them. Marcus here. We need you in the command center immediately. Dr. Chen's voice was tense. We're picking up multiple hyperspace signatures in the outer system. Elena felt ice form in her stomach. How many? 12 ships. Meridian Corporation Registry. ETA 6 hours. Elena and Marcus exchanged grim looks. We're on our way, Marcus said. The command center was built deep underground, protected by layers of rock and energy shielding. Elena followed Marcus through corridors filled with the quiet efficiency of people preparing for battle. The main operations room buzzed with activity as technicians monitored sensor displays and communication arrays. Dr. Chun met them at the entrance, her face pale but determined. The good news is they're not moving fast, probably conducting a systematic search of the system. The bad news is they have firepower we can't match in a direct confrontation. Elena studied the tactical display showing the approaching ships. 3 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 3 support vessels. More than enough to reduce the colony to ash. Do they know we're here? Unknown. They're scanning each planet methodically, but they haven't focused on us specifically yet. How long before they reach us? At current speed, 4.5 hours. Elena's mind raced through tactical possibilities. Show me our ship positions and defensive capabilities. The display shifted to show New Eden and its surrounding space. Elena studied the orbital mechanics, the placement of the automated defense platforms, the limited fighter coverage available. "This won't work," she said bluntly. "If we try to fight them in orbit, they'll crush us. We need to change the parameters of the engagement." Marcus leaned forward. "What do you have in mind?" "We make them come to us on our terms. But first, we need to get the non-combatants to safety." Elena turned to Dr. Chun. "Do you have evacuation plans?" "Yes, but the transport capacity won't be enough for everyone," Elena finished. "How many people can we move in 4 hours?" Dr. Chun consulted her data pad. "Maybe 1,000. The rest would have to shelter in the underground bunkers." Elena shook her head. "The bunkers won't protect them from orbital bombardment. We need another option." "There is one," Marcus said slowly, "but it's risky. There's a network of natural caves about 50 kilometers north of here, deep enough to provide protection, large enough to hold the entire population." "How long to move everyone?" 6 hours minimum." Elena looked at the tactical display again, calculating distances and timing. "We'll have to buy you time. Draw the corporate ships away from the colony while the evacuation proceeds." "With what ships?" Dr. Chen asked. "Most of our pilots aren't ready for this kind of combat." "Then we'll have to make them ready. Fast." Elena turned to Marcus. "I need to see those pilots. Now." The pilot briefing room was filled with nervous energy as Elena studied the faces before her. Men and women of various ages, united by their determination to protect their new home. Some showed signs of military training, others were clearly civilians pressed into service. "I'm Captain Elena Vasquez," she began without preamble. "In 3.5 hours, 12 Meridian Corporation warships will arrive in this system. Our job is to make sure they don't succeed in destroying what you've built here." A young woman raised her hand. "Captain, with respect, we're outnumbered 4-1. How are we supposed to survive that?" "By being smarter, faster, and more motivated than they are." Elena activated the tactical display. "The corporate pilots are professionals, but they're fighting for pay. You're fighting for your homes, your families, your future. That gives us an edge." Elena spent the next hour drilling them on formation flying, evasive maneuvers, and coordinated attacks. The skills were there, buried under inexperience and fear, but she could feel their confidence growing as they worked together. "Remember," she concluded, "we don't have to destroy all of them. We just have to make them think twice about the cost of taking this planet. Make every shot count, watch each other's backs, and follow your wing commanders. We're going to get through this." As the pilots dispersed to their ships, Marcus approached Elena. "What about Maya? She'll be evacuated with the other children." Elena felt a pang of maternal fear, but pushed it aside. "She'll be safer in the caves than here, and someone needs to make sure she has a future to come back to." Marcus studied her face intently. "You know this is likely to be a one-way mission. All the important ones are." Elena managed to smile. "But I have something I didn't have 3 months ago." "What's that?" "A reason to come home." Before Marcus could respond, the alert klaxons began wailing throughout the base. The corporate fleet had arrived. The Nomad lifted off from New Eden's surface as part of a desperate 12-ship formation, Elena at the controls while Marcus coordinated communications from the co-pilot seat. Through the viewport, she could see the other colony fighters spreading out in the attack pattern she had hastily designed. Fast, unpredictable, using the planet's gravity well and orbital debris to mask their approach. "Corporate fleet is holding position at the edge of the system," Marcus reported, monitoring the long-range sensors. "They're scanning the inner planets methodically." Elena adjusted their trajectory, leading the formation in a wide arc that would bring them up behind the corporate ship's expected search pattern. "How's the evacuation proceeding?" 70% complete. Dr. Chun estimates another 90 minutes to get everyone to the caves. Elena checked the chronometer. They had been in space for 45 minutes, and the corporate fleet was moving steadily inward. The timing would be close, too close. "All ships, this is Phoenix Leader," Elena transmitted on the squadron frequency. "Target the support vessels first. Disable their sensors and communications before they can call for reinforcements." Remember, hit fast and scatter. Don't let them lock weapons on you. Acknowledgements crackled back from the 11 other ships. Elena could hear the fear in some voices, determination in others. These people were risking everything for a world most of them had called home for less than 2 years. The corporate formation came into visual range, sleek, predatory ships that looked like mechanical sharks against the starfield. Elena felt the familiar calm descend over her, the combat focus that had kept her alive through dozens of engagements during the corporate wars. Phoenix Squadron, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta. The colony ships dove toward their targets like hunting birds, energy weapons blazing. Elena targeted the lead communications ship, her shots precise and devastating. The corporate vessel's shields flared and collapsed, its sensor array exploding in a shower of sparks and debris. Around her, the other colony pilots followed her lead, their attacks coordinated despite their limited training. 2 more support ships took critical damage before the corporate fleet could respond, their ability to coordinate reduced to short-range communications only. But the corporate fleet's response, when it came, was overwhelming. Break! Break! Elena shouted as destroyer-class weapons lit up space around them. Scatter pattern Omega! The colony ships dispersed in all directions, using every trick Elena had taught them to avoid the corporate weapons locks. But they were fighting professional military pilots with superior ships and overwhelming firepower. Phoenix 7 is hit. The transmission was cut short by static. Elena watched in horror as one of the colony ships, piloted by a young farmer named David who had volunteered to protect his pregnant wife, exploded in a brilliant flash. The loss hit her like a physical blow, but she forced herself to focus. Phoenix Squadron, reform on my position. We're pulling back to secondary positions. As the surviving colony ships regrouped, Elena studied the tactical situation. The corporate fleet was now fully alert and organized, their heavy cruisers moving to bracket the planet while the destroyers hunted the colony fighters. But the attack had accomplished its primary goal. The corporate ships were now focused on the immediate threat rather than conducting systematic planetary scans. Elena, Marcus's voice was tight with concern. We're receiving an incoming transmission from the corporate flagship. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a cold-faced man in corporate military uniform. This is Admiral Harrison of the Meridian Corporate Fleet. You are in violation of corporate territorial claims and are interfering with legitimate business operations. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to standard protocols. Elena leaned forward, making sure her face was clearly visible on the transmission. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the New Eden Defense Force. You are in violation of Colonial Independence Treaty, Article 7. Withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Harrison's expression shifted slightly, recognition flickering in his eyes. Captain Vasquez, you're supposed to be dead, killed in the destruction of the transport Esperanza. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. Elena's voice carried the steel of someone who had nothing left to lose. The question is whether you want to join the crew that tried to kill me. You cannot possibly believe you can defeat a corporate battle group with a handful of converted civilian ships. Elena smiled coldly. I don't have to defeat you, Admiral. I just have to make this operation cost more than it's worth to your shareholders. She cut the transmission and turned to Marcus. How much longer for the evacuation? 30 minutes. Elena studied the tactical display. The corporate ships were moving into bombardment positions around the planet. In 30 minutes, they would begin orbital strikes that would reduce New Eden to rubble. She needed to buy more time. All ships, this is Phoenix Leader. We're going to do something incredibly stupid. Follow my lead and trust me. Elena pushed the Nomad into a steep dive directly toward the corporate flagship, a massive heavy cruiser bristling with weapons. It was a suicidal attack, the kind of desperate maneuver that no trained pilot would attempt, which was exactly what made it effective. The corporate ships, expecting another hit-and-run attack, were caught off guard as Elena's formation dove straight into their midst. The colony ships scattered among the larger vessels, making it impossible for the corporate fleet to use their heavy weapons without risking friendly fire. Targeting their engine nodes, Elena announced, threading the Nomad between 2 destroyers while pouring fire into their vulnerable rear sections. Mobility kills are worth more than destruction. The close-quarters battle was chaos, ships weaving between each other at point-blank range, energy weapons creating a deadly light show against the cosmic darkness. Elena felt the Nomad shudder as enemy fire found their shields, but she kept pressing the attack. Phoenix leader, we've got multiple engine kills on the destroyers, reported Phoenix 3. But we're taking heavy casualties. Elena could see it on her tactical display. 5 colony ships remaining out of the original 12. They had hurt the corporate fleet, but the mathematics of attrition were against them. Phoenix Squadron, execute withdrawal pattern. Fall back to the inner system. As the surviving colony ships pulled back, Elena received the transmission she had been waiting for. Phoenix leader, this is evacuation control. All civilians are secure in the caves. Repeat, evacuation is complete. Elena felt a moment of overwhelming relief, followed immediately by grim determination. The people were safe, but the colony itself, everything they had built, was still in danger. Marcus, send a message to all colony ships. Tell them to break off and retreat to the outer system. It's time for the final gambit. Marcus looked at her with alarm. Elena, what are you planning? Elena adjusted the Nomad's course, heading directly for New Eden's surface. I'm going to show Admiral Harrison why the corporate wars started in the first place. Elena brought the Nomad down through New Eden's atmosphere in a controlled crash landing, the ship's hull screaming as it carved a furrow through the colony's main landing field. Emergency systems wailed as she and Marcus evacuated the burning vessel, but Elena's attention was focused on the abandoned Colonial Defense Center built into the hillside. Elena, what are you doing? Marcus demanded as they raced through the empty corridors. The corporate fleet will begin orbital bombardment any minute. Not if I can help it. Elena reached the main control center and began activating systems that had been powered down during the evacuation. Marcus, I need you to establish a secure channel to the ICA command network. Maximum encryption. Marcus's fingers flew across the communications console. Channel established. Elena, what's your plan? Elena pulled up files she had been studying since her arrival. Geological surveys, industrial reports, and most importantly, the detailed mineral composition scans of Kepler 438b. Marcus, did you know that this planet sits on one of the largest rare earth deposits in human space? Marcus paused in his work, understanding beginning to dawn in his eyes. The triridium veins beneath the colony. Exactly. Enough strategic materials to power a fleet for decades. The corporate fleet isn't here to destroy a refugee colony. They're here to claim the most valuable mining operation in the sector. Elena's fingers danced across the control systems, activating deep core scanners that had been dormant since the colony's establishment. And I'm about to make that impossible. The main display lit up with three-dimensional geological maps showing the extensive mineral deposits beneath New Eden. Elena highlighted the primary triridium veins, massive formations that extended deep into the planet's crust, connected by a network of natural fissures and cavern systems. Elena, please tell me you're not planning what I think you're planning. Elena continued working, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what she was attempting. The Colonial Charter specifically prohibits the use of deep-core mining techniques that could destabilize planetary geology. It's one of the few laws the corporations still respect, because destabilized planets are worthless to everyone. But if you trigger a cascade failure in the triridium veins, the entire mineral deposit becomes inaccessible for at least a century, maybe permanently. Elena looked up from her work, meeting Marcus's horrified gaze. The corporate fleet has no reason to remain if there's nothing here worth taking. Marcus grabbed her arm. Elena, that kind of geological disruption could trigger planetary earthquakes, volcanic activity. It could destroy everything the colony has built. The people are safe in the caves. The buildings can be rebuilt. Elena gently removed his hand from her arm. But if we don't do this, the corporations will strip mine this world until it's as dead as Kepler 442c. The communications console chimed with an incoming transmission. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the screen, his expression coldly professional. Captain Vasquez, you have 60 seconds to surrender before we begin orbital bombardment of the colony installations. Elena looked directly into the camera. Admiral, I have a counter-proposal. You have 60 seconds to withdraw your fleet before I make this entire operation unprofitable for Meridian Corporation. Harrison's laugh was without humor. With what leverage? Your fighter squadron is destroyed, your colony is defenseless, and you're trapped on the surface with nowhere to run. Elena smiled, the expression predatory. Are you familiar with the geological composition of Kepler 438b, Admiral? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Harrison's features. What are you talking about? This planet contains the largest known triridium deposits in human space. Enough strategic materials to make Meridian Corporation the dominant military contractor for the next 50 years. Elena paused, letting that information sink in. That's why you're really here, isn't it? The refugee colony was just a convenient excuse. Harrison's silence confirmed her suspicion. Behind him, Elena could see corporate officers checking their data screens with growing alarm. Now imagine, Elena continued, what would happen if someone with detailed knowledge of the planet's geological structure were to trigger a cascade failure in those triridium veins? The resulting tectonic instability would make mining impossible for decades. All those lovely strategic materials, buried forever under unstable rock formations. You're bluffing. No one would destroy resources of that magnitude. Elena's finger hovered over the activation control for the deep core charges she had been quietly arming throughout their conversation. I'm a refugee, Admiral. I've lost my ship, my career, my husband, and nearly lost my daughter. What exactly do you think I have left to lose? The silence stretched for long seconds. Elena could almost see the calculations running through Harrison's mind. The cost of the operation, the value of the mineral deposits, the probability that she was actually willing to carry out her threat. Finally, Harrison spoke. What are your terms? Complete withdrawal of all corporate forces from this system. Recognition of New Eden as an independent colony under the Colonial Independence Treaty. And a formal guarantee that Meridian Corporation will not interfere with refugee resettlement operations in this sector. Impossible. Corporate policy doesn't allow. Elena's finger moved closer to the activation control. Admiral, I estimate you have about 30 seconds before I become too impatient to continue this conversation. More frantic activity on the corporate bridge. Elena could see officers consulting data pads, running calculations, making urgent recommendations to their commander. The mathematics of the situation were brutal. Lose the entire mineral wealth of the planet, or accept a political compromise that would allow future negotiations. 20 seconds, Admiral. Harrison's face was stone. Captain Vasquez, if you trigger that cascade, you'll be responsible for the destruction of billions of credits worth of strategic resources. The entire war effort could be compromised. The war effort that's turned human space into a graveyard? Elena's voice carried years of accumulated anger. The war effort that's created millions of refugees? The war effort that tried to murder my daughter. She leaned forward. 10 seconds, Admiral. Wait. Harrison held up his hand. I'm authorized to offer limited concessions. Recognition of the colony's independence. Guarantee of non-interference with civilian populations. But the mineral rights will remain with the planet's inhabitants, as specified in the Colonial Independence Treaty. Elena's voice was implacable. 5 seconds. Elena could see the defeat in Harrison's eyes even before he spoke. Agreed. Meridian Corporation formally recognizes New Eden as an independent colony. We will withdraw all forces from the system within 24 hours. Elena's hand moved away from the activation control, but she didn't relax. I want that agreement transmitted on all corporate and ICA channels within the hour. And Admiral, if any corporate forces are detected in this system again, I won't bother with negotiations. The transmission ended, leaving Elena and Marcus alone in the command center. For a long moment, neither spoke, the enormity of what had just happened settling over them. Elena, Marcus said finally, did you really just blackmail a corporate battle fleet into retreat? Elena sagged against the control console, exhaustion hitting her like a physical blow. I threatened to destroy the thing they wanted most. Sometimes that's the only language corporations understand. Marcus moved to the observation window, where they could see the corporate ships already beginning to move away from the planet. What happens now? Now we rebuild. We bring the people home from the caves. We repair the damage from the attack. And we continue building something worth protecting. Elena joined him at the window. And maybe, if we're very lucky, other refugee communities will hear about what happened here and realize they don't have to keep running. Marcus smiled, the expression transforming his weathered features. You know, when I found you in that cantina on Kepler 442c, I thought I was just helping a desperate mother save her child. And now I think maybe you saved all of us. Elena thought about Maya, safe in the caves with the other children, probably telling anyone who would listen about the adventure she was having. Her daughter would grow up on this world, would learn to see the stars as destinations rather than sources of danger. That alone made everything worthwhile. Marcus, there's something I need to tell you. What's that? Elena turned to face him fully, seeing not just the traitor who had saved her daughter's life, but the man who had given them both a future. When I made that bargain in the cantina, one night for medicine and food, I was prepared to do whatever it took to save Maya. But you showed me something I'd forgotten. Which was that there are still good people in the universe. People who help others not because they have to, but because it's the right thing to do. Elena paused, feeling suddenly vulnerable. I want you to know that what I feel for you now has nothing to do with gratitude or obligation. It's something much more dangerous. Marcus stepped closer, his dark eyes intense. Dangerous how? I'm falling in love with you, Marcus-chan. With your kindness, your strength, your absolute certainty that people are worth saving even when they've given up on themselves. Elena felt tears on her cheeks but didn't try to wipe them away. And that terrifies me, because I don't know how to protect something that precious. Marcus reached up to gently touch her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. Elena, you just stared down a corporate battle fleet to protect 3,000 people you barely know. I think you know exactly how to protect the things that matter. Before Elena could respond, the command center doors burst open and Maya came running in, followed closely by Dr. Chun and a stream of colonists returning from the caves. Mama! Mama! Maya launched herself into Elena's arms. The nice lady said you made the bad ships go away. Did you really? Elena held her daughter tightly, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the solid reality of her warm body. We all did, sweetheart. All of us together. Maya pulled back to look at Elena seriously. Are we going to stay here forever and ever? Elena looked around the command center, at Marcus watching them with soft eyes, at Dr. Chin beaming with relief, at the colonists who had risked everything to build a better life among the stars. Through the observation windows, she could see New Eden's twin suns setting over the valley, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Yes, Maya. We're home. Maya clapped her hands in delight, then turned to Marcus with the directness that only children possess. Are you going to be my daddy now? Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks, but Marcus just smiled and knelt to Maya's level. Would you like that? Yes. Daddies are supposed to protect their families, and you're really good at that. Maya looked between Elena and Marcus with the satisfaction of someone who had solved a particularly complex puzzle. And Mama smiles more when you're around. Elena met Marcus's eyes over Maya's head, seeing her own hopes and fears reflected there. They had found each other in the depths of desperation, two damaged souls seeking redemption among the stars. What they had built together, trust, affection, the beginning of love, had been forged in crisis and tempered by loss. But it was real, and it was theirs. I think, Elena said softly, that sounds like the best idea anyone's had in a very long time. As the sun set over New Eden, Elena Vasquez, former transport captain, refugee, mother, and now defender of humanity's hope, held her daughter and looked toward a future bright with possibility. The stars no longer held only danger and loss, but also the promise of new worlds, new communities, new families forged from the ashes of old wars. The universe was vast and often cruel, but it was also full of second chances for those brave enough to reach for them.